Okay, good. Hi, I'm researching an exhibition project, as mentioned, Feminist South, looking at feminist practices in the Asia Pacific. And it's a curatorial project, as you mentioned, to create dialogue around contemporary feminist practice in the region, and it's in collaboration with two curators who I met in Beijing, who run a gallery called E-Project Space. So the project started from working in the field of art making for 10 years and really wanting to steer the conversation away from America, Europe and the UK, which tends to dominate. And it was also triggered by my engagements with China and experiencing a real unknown there about the kind of Australian practice that I knew about. So the aim is to bridge these two concerns, to decenter understandings of feminist art and to find new connections between works being made here in Australia and in Asia, and locate a common sensibility, if there is one, of feminist work being made around here. So the project started with these kind of first questions, which are around what is a feminist performance practice in the Asia Pacific region? Who are the key practitioners? What are their driving concerns? And where are the discourses specific to here right now? So still in its early phases, the project has three parts, a research, development, and then some sort of presentation bit. And working alongside an advisory committee, the project's going to work towards some sort of exhibition in 2019, and we're going to do events, reading groups, talks, and an online platform. So this project requires multiple perspectives. So the focus is first on dialogue with other artists, curators, and writers between China and Australia. And I've just returned from being in residence at E-Project Space in Beijing as the kind of first part of this research. So this is an image of some curators, artists and writers that are working in Beijing. We met to have a dinner on my first night in China to discuss Chinese feminism, and after which I soon understood this was already a very contested space to have a conversation like that. So when in China, the focus really was mainly around this term feminism and its translation in an Asian context. And I think this project raises a lot of questions around what feminism means when curating cross-culturally. And in the next slide, you'll see, as an example, you'll see the different meanings that feminism can have in Mandarin, from the very kind of apolitical femaleness to, what is kind of an extreme understanding, which is kind of anti-male. And the next slide that you'll see is taken from my translator app. So when translating feminism into Mandarin and then doing it back into English, the app actually gave me Marxism. And so here the ism is, the Marxism is the basis for the translation of feminism, which, if you think about it, is quite a complicated translation. So here I am with the feminist Chinese performance group BCOM, who I met. From meeting them and others, I now know firsthand that feminism is well alive in China. It just has a different articulation and has different political and cultural histories, and where even the idea of power is a sensitive idea, and feminism can be just a feeling. So the following slides are of artists I've met or are of interest that touch on these ideas, and this is a work by Shen Jin, Provocation of a Nightingale. And Shen Jin uses the body as her material to tell stories that are untold, mistranslated or forgotten. And she uses the kind of culturally or racially coded body to articulate political situations, and uses the body as this idea of the threshold where power is played out. And similarly, in the next slide, you'll see artist, musician Chunyin Rainbow Chan. And Rainbow Chan, interestingly uses performance and music to playfully examine the cultural gendered body and challenge, what these conceptions of an Asian female body should look like and do. And in the next slide, you'll see a work by Amy Su Wu, and this is her work Thunderclap, and she uses text by China's first and mostly unknown feminist theorist and activist Hu Yinzhen by wearing these quotes of Jen's from her 1907 Feminist Manifesto as fashion, Amy uses the body to disseminate this text into the present and into public space. And here you can see in each piece there's a QR code embedded, which takes the user to translations of Jen's original text. And in the next slide, this idea of the body and the text is this ongoing theme that I'm really interested in. This is Shuang Li. She uses her body to don homemade billboards advertising that to marry her you can maybe receive Chinese citizenship in these other countries. And really this explores the futility of this gesture and considers the geopolitical borders of bodies, of who's allowed in and who's denied. And this is Chinese artist Popo Fan, who I lovingly met in China, and he uses documentary filmmaking to capture Chinese queer and feminist histories that would receive little or no media coverage in China. And interestingly, he runs this queer film festival in Beijing, utilising the French embassy as this kind of non-space where censorship is not held in that space. So from meeting these artists and having these conversations has really just raised a whole lot of other questions, namely around, what does feminism mean cross-culturally? Is there another term to use? Are there different terms, better terms? How do you curate feminism in Asia? What can exhibition making bring to this conversation? And how can exhibition making facilitate new understandings of feminism? And I guess the last one really is, can we make this exhibition? Thanks.